Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up. Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up. Hey, check it.
Sports Hitless by the fans and for the fans, thank you for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon for On the Court. I am your host, Carl Coulage, and we're going to get right to it. There's a lot to discuss in the NBA, and I know people have been waiting to hear my opinion about the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie Irving, them hiring Ime Udoka. There's a lot to be covered. There's a lot to say, and I know a lot of people, are curious as to what my opinions are. I invited Paul the Great from the NFL panel to join us here today, filling in for Ziggy. Womack will be joining us shortly. Mike, how you doing, sir?
What's up? What's up, my brother? Paul, what's up, brother?
Mike, man, what up, bro? It's been a while, man. How you feeling? How's the family, bro?
Amazing, man. Amazing. How about yourself, brother?
Can't complain. They're growing fast and acting bad, bro. But that's
it.
Part of the course.
That's what they do, man. You know that.
So there's, in the matter of days, I mean, last week we were on and we discussed about what the Nets should do, and we kind of predicted, we saw it coming. The lining were on the wall about effort and defense, and Steve Nash gets fired. Now, I didn't think Ime would be in this position to get hired. Mike, I know you want to address Kyrie Irving, but did you want to touch about the coaching situation first before we dive into Kyrie?
So are we going to do both separately or time?
Yeah, no, well, like I guess you could tie it on because it's all about the Nets are the narrative. I've been listening to talk radio all day. I heard Stephen A. on the Michael K show today. It's trending, and that's what people are talking about is
right.
Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. Now they're bringing in Ime Udoka. It's like the buck doesn't stop. So it's up to you guys how you want to. Do we want to address Ime first? Because even last week, Coach said that he was going to get blackballed. He wasn't going to get a job at all, and now he's basically getting the job in Brooklyn. I got to be totally honest. I wanted the Celtics to be petty and hold out and not give him a job because I can't stand the Nets. So I'd be lying if I sat here and told you that I wasn't going to be petty for them to hold out on it. That's just my opinion. It pisses me off, but I guess that's my karma for all the nonsense I talked about the Nets and all the shenanigans I pulled. My coach now is going to lead them because I know how much of a good coach he is. So there's a lot here. Mike, where do you want to start off with it?
So I'll start with Ime because the Kyrie situation and controversy is a lot deeper, and I'm not going to dive that. I'm going to dive deep, but again, this basketball, so we're going to talk about basketball. But just Ime, while he may be a really good coach, we only have a small sample size of a year. I don't think that this is the appropriate time, because you saw the backlash when it was reported that he was going to get the job. So I don't think that this is the appropriate time. Maybe let Jacques Vaughn be their interim coach for a year, and then you can bring Ime back next year. So it looks so from a league-wide perspective and for the fans, you're still upholding the penalty that he had with Boston. Though you're not the organization that he had the infractions with, you're still upholding the penalty. I guess if you're doing it from a moral perspective or a public relations perspective, either way you want to do that. So that's how I view that situation, is that this is probably not the time to just bring him right back in, especially given all of the controversy that is going on currently and that was going on in the summertime. Now, I don't think now is the time, and I don't think this organization is equipped to handle another controversial situation. I don't think they have the leadership in place to handle that correctly. So I would say it's a nice idea from a basketball standpoint, but I mean, you know me, Carl. You know who I think should be there, but we know my man.
He's not going to get. He's
never getting a job again, and it's unfair.
Are you talking Mark Jackson?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
everybody knows I'm an advocate, and I just think the brother needs a job. I don't know what that man did. Somebody got the tape or whatever. We know exactly what he did.
To the backstory, again, it's because he was, from what I read, preaching religion was a big problem, and then the other thing is his homophobic comments. Knowing that Rick Welts is a high man of even though the Warriors denied it, that's not the reason. That's what I believe. Given the fact that Rick Welts was associated with the Warriors at the time, and he made those comments, and because Rick Welts was also an executive for the NBA, I believe that's the reason why
it's a lot, man. But so he's not getting the job. So just in general, I don't think the organization has shown a track record of being able to handle this type of controversy in the right way, and right way, I'm using that term loosely, but I just don't think right now is the time to bring in another controversial situation.
Paul, do you agree with what Mike said, or do you disagree about having to bring in Ime, given the fact that he is a great coach? He does know the players really well, being an assistant for the Nets, I believe 2 years ago. He was an assistant. He was on that bench with Steve Nash.
Here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if Ime is a great coach. I don't know.
Thank you. Let's be clear.
We gotta,
Celtics fans are real biased. Thank you, Paul.
It's not biased. To be fair, again, he did what Brad Stevens
year.
Couldn't do. Brad Stevens steps down.
I'm not going to say that either. Jason Tatum did.
The facts are in front of you. How do you not say? How do we not say that? I don't get.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown get better? Yes or no? That's what Paul just said.
Yeah, they get better every year. They get better every year.
I'm not going to sit here and
whatever.
You're a professor, Carl. So
I'm going to profess
my keywords. I'm not highlighting great for Ime Udoka. Exactly. Right? Not yet. Not after one season. I'm not doing all that.
Thank you. Let's pump the brakes.
Like we got to chill out. But this is a supreme case of desperation, right?
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Nets have been a failed experiment.
Yep.
Kyrie with KD, failed experiment. Steve Nash as the coach, failed experiment. Joe Tsai. I don't know what the P&L look like, but from a fan's perspective, failed experiment. Sean Marks was also somebody I said, and I was very passionate about, should have gotten fired in the offseason along with Nash. So it shows you the disarray of the organization. You have an owner who's like, nah, I'm not letting players push me around. We're not firing Steve Nash. It didn't matter if the Nets started 3-3, 4-3, or 5-2. It didn't matter. I gave Steve Nash a 10-game window. The lack of effort, the lack of buy-in, the lack of fire and desire you expect to see coming into a season the way they ended last year, you expected to see more than that. So we know that the team wasn't bought in, right? But the desperation from Sean Marks is, man, we got to win and we got to win now or I'm out of a job. And that's what we're seeing here.
That's true.
Right? This reminds me of when, I'm football P2. But I remember when the Carolina Panthers cut ties with Greg Hardy. Not a lot of people remember this story. Greg Hardy was premium defender, got arrested for for domestic violence, slamming his girlfriend on a bed full of AR-15s, right? Mm-hmm. The Dallas Cowboys signed him a week later because Jerry Jones was desperate for Dallas football to win. And the only reason that story ran so wild, they had to pull the curtains back and say, you know what, Greg, the NFL had to get involved and ban son. He's been a UFC fighter since, right? That's the kind of desperation I'm feeling from Sean Marks. Now, I am surprised that Boston needed Danny Ainge for this one, right? Danny Ainge would have been asking for first-round draft picks, player capital. You want Ime Udoka. What I think is the most puzzling part of the story, though, is Marcus Smart dropped a statement 2 hours ago that just released.
I saw
on
that.
The Bleacher Report.
Mm-hmm.
I literally just read it. I couldn't believe what I seen. Marcus Smart said, he's a captain, right? At least looks like the captain. I don't know if he actually got the C on his chest. From what we know and what we were told, it was just a suspension. We didn't know he was leaving to go coach somebody else. We thought they was going to suspend him for a year and he'd be back. I think it left a lot of people just like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I can honestly say, man, I thought the Boston Celtics was buttoned up. We thought their leadership was tight-knit. That's a small group of people, of leaders, right? Marcus Smart is the leader of the Celtics. I don't care what nobody say. He's the leader of that team.
That's right.
And this is him coming out talking about Ime Udoka. So when you split hairs the way the Celtics are splitting hairs, they went from having the premium distraction of the offseason to not having nothing to talk about because they came out and played good basketball, minus those two goofy losses y'all had, Carl, right? They played premium basketball with Tatum and Brown, was winning games, and then this happens. We're going to let him walk freely? Makes me wonder why he wasn't fired right there on the spot. If he violated the team rule and we said you couldn't coach no more, why does he get a pass? I don't understand that.
There's a lot of holes in here that you can't really figure out. But I guess, does he get the job done in Brooklyn? Is he there?
No.
Is he what they needed? Give. So no,
no,
he can't fix that.
No, their roster's not good, bro. I've come to that realization. That's not a good roster.
I'm sorry, no.
That's not. And Carl, it's almost similar to why we kept seeing the collapses with, we saw the collapse with the Clippers. Just because you have a leader on the sideline, like a Ty Lue, you need a leader on the court. Like you need somebody that can.
But that's Kevin Durant, though. No.
Who? Yeah, right. Right.
Sorry.
Stop telling jokes on here, man. This is a serious topic. You ain't telling jokes. Stop it.
No, but that's supposed to be Kevin. That's supposed to be Kevin.
No, it ain't.
Yo, I can't lie though. I like the fact that he said he was sleeping and he found out on ESPN like it was supposed to.
But just think about it. We're actually all basketball fans, right? Aside from the Nets not having any true defensive powers, the real Nets problem last year was offense.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't an offensive guy.
Right, but we saw the lack of
issue.
But we saw their lack of defense because they didn't. So defense is all about effort, and we saw that they didn't
but
give
everybody.
Steve Nash that effort.
It ain't all about.
It's not all effort.
It's not all effort.
Listen, there's a lot of players who we didn't believe that were defensive-minded players, and when you get a defensive-minded coach, they turn into a defensive player. Is that true or false? Yes.
Like, do they become like elite defensive players?
Not elite, but they play better. But they play better. They get motivated to play better.
This is the thing, Carl. They use your Celtics as an example. acting as if Brad Stevens didn't have those same people as a great defense. Now they were 14th, went to second, but the year before you guys were a top 5 defense.
Right.
That means there were already people in place that had a defensive mindset. They just needed an extra spark. That's what coaches do. But you can't make, it's hard to make a bad, like J.R. Smith never became a good defender, adequate defender like that. He was always and I don't mean to pick on JR, but just at that Cavs team, he was a bad defender. Sometimes Melo even talked about in his career, that was part of his problem. George Karl and his Seattle Supersonics played defense. He tried, Kenyon Martin played defense. Melo just was not interested in playing defense. He talked about how scoring was what he did. He would just.
So this Nets team is not interested in playing defense regardless.
No, it's a bunch of offensive players. No, KD plays defense sometimes, but KD can't. He can't do it consistently for a whole 82 games. Kyrie has never been a defender like that. Joe Harris is not a defender. Seth Curry kind of. You go down the list, other than Ben Simmons, who's an all-defensive player, Royce O'Neal, who's a really good defender. Where are the defenders? There aren't any. So you can't make them that.
So they're just going to be, they're not going to get worse. They can get somewhat improved with getting this new coach.
They can be like a 2021, but that's not going to get, it's not a good roster. I've accepted it. This is not a good roster, especially when you don't, I'm going to put it to you like this, and everybody will be shocked, but so what? If you gave a prime LeBron that team, it could win a championship because of his type of leadership, his style
defensive
of play.
skill set. Oh, absolutely.
His skill set with all those shooters, he would make that. But they don't have that in place for this roster, and that is the biggest deficiency on the court. They do not have a leader that could put everybody in their natural positions and point people out. That's what LeBron is excellent at, and they don't have that. So without that,
so the natural leader the Celtics had was Marcus Smart to do that last year.
Who?
For the Celtics last year, because they were able to become defensive minded. Like as you said, they had the pieces. You needed the pieces.
So I think they all. I think the. Oh, go ahead, Paul.
No, go ahead, Mike. Finish what you're saying. Go ahead.
No, I think Marcus is a key component, but the core. But remember, Marcus wasn't what he was primarily known for coming out of Oklahoma State. He was a good defender, but he wasn't defensive player of the year status. I think Brad Stevens, similar to the Warriors with Mark Jackson, I think the culture was already set for playing high level defense. Jason Tatum, and now I believe what took it over the top is your superstar bought into the defensive mindset. Jason Tatum is an elite defender. He is not just a good one. He is an elite defender, and that's what took it over the top. But of course, Marcus helped, but it was the culture that was already set.
Paul, anything to add to that?
I just think I'm not going to dismiss their ability to defend last year. And I'm specifically speaking in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They also outshot everybody until about game 3 of the final, game 4 of the finals, right? Like we're talking games that it was down 30 points, 20 points, and was winning games. True. I mean, Tatum averaged 30 for the playoffs last year, Brown 26, and he had a couple duds. Derek White scored, like their ability to score the basketball is why they got as far as they got. Sure, they locked up Kevin Durant, but I mean, did you see the defense they set? I mean, when you put that defense on anybody, bro, like they took him off the court essentially, right? So that's why I said the Nets' biggest failure was offense. Steve Nash shouldn't draw up anything to get the other guys the ball or get his 2 key guys the ball in the right spaces.
And quiet as it's kept, good point, Paul. And quiet as it's kept when we're talking about that defense, and we was having this conversation last week of why, for some odd reason, people think defense and offense is equal. That great number 1 defense, Steph Curry averaged 31 against them. The Warriors were doing back cuts, split cuts. They were getting essentially what they wanted a lot of the time.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, so Wiggins was open every game.
So at some point, your defense, and that's why I think I land with where Paul lands, is that if you're not going to stop all of the great players. So you at least have to have a super efficient offense, and they didn't have it at all.
According to Anthony Diaz, he said JJ Redick said KD and Kyrie came to Brooklyn and single-handedly destroyed the culture.
No, I'm not gonna go there.
Well, that's that. I mean,
that's what he said.
Listen,
Consider the Nets team before that was on the bench having fun and dancing with the
So that's fair.
and
You know
and,
what?
and, and
Culture,
D'Angelo
yeah,
Russell.
culture is fair.
You know
The
what?
culture
That's
is
fair.
different
as,
now,
As
where-
pejorative as it sounds on its face, like, oh, you wilding, bro. If you sit there for a minute,
It's not that. It's
That's
not that far off.
it's not that far. It's not
Yeah,
that
it's
far.
not that
off.
far.
Yeah.
There's some credence.
It's similar to. I mean, the Lakers didn't have much culture pre-LeBron, but it's similar to how that culture is today, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
for sure.
just a bad culture.
So, Kyrie is the other part of this equation who seems to be the blame game, and they're blaming Kyrie. And you know, I was defending him on a post from somebody who was saying how Kyrie he says stupid things, right? And I've always been in this mindset of, and I've been saying this consistently about separating the art from the artist, right? Sometimes we kind of mesh the two, and I think sometimes we get biased with that, where it's like we don't know these people on a personal level, and sometimes we like to pretend like we do, but we really don't. So, could we separate Kyrie's personal views from him being a basketball player? He's a great player, right? And I think sometimes when we mesh the two, and we could use the R. Kelly example, we could use the Bill Cosby example. Sometimes we're biased within ourselves, and I can say it to myself, but with this whole Kyrie situation, how is it that we can't get past what he believes and what he has to say and say, you know what, this is who he is, and let him allow just to play basketball and bypass that? And why is it becoming, now it's not even about basketball, it's becoming about his personal views. That's just my take on it.
I got to do what I did with eBay. I know this might be a hot take, but we got to put great in quotations for Kyrie. He's a really good basketball player.
Thank you. Let's
Steph Curry is a great basketball player.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's make a
So
distinction.
I'm not, and listen, I want to be crystal clear for our audience, because there's a lot of viewers out there that might be like, nah, P is tripping.
Yeah.
I want to be clear. He's a great talent, really good basketball player. And those two things are not equal, unfortunately.
Right, but
He's
that's
a liability
the thing,
on defense.
Right.
And he's a very
good player.
erratic
Okay.
basketball player.
That's fair.
We got to stop throwing that word around.
Okay,
Good
he's a good player.
Let's be clear about.
So Greg is using the Kurt check.
Carl, by the way, that's twice. Okay, that's twice.
Times.
What?
That's
Two
twice
times.
already. That you've given great to everybody. That's twice.
Okay,
Let's
fine.
not
Okay.
let it be a third time. Okay? You're the host.
So,
Come on now.
So Greg is in the comments. He said Kurt Schilling, he's a racist prick, but he should be in the Hall of Fame. So again, it's separating the art from the artist. It doesn't seem like we can do that, and it seems like Kyrie is getting blamed. And again, I can't sit here and say I don't agree with his personal views, but I guess I bypass that because I love basketball and he's great at what he does. You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't know him on a personal level for us to be sitting here judging him and attacking him and vilifying him for what he believes. He believes the earth is flat. Believes the earth is flat. That's what he wants to believe. I'm just using it as an example.
Can I kick this off real quick?
Go ahead.
With the beliefs. Unfortunately, what you're saying is 100% accurate. What you believe is what you believe, right? Whether that's religion, whether it's spirit, to me, it doesn't matter, right? What you believe and what your family believe is on you. That's you, right? The unfortunate part is Kyrie Irving is representing an organization, right? Mm-hmm. They pay him a lot of money. And I know we shouldn't talk about money, but the truth is we got jobs and we represent some level of an organization.
Correct. The
outside component, unlike any sport, and y'all know I love sports. Y'all know I love me some football. NBA superstars or stars are the biggest role models in the world. Plain and simple. No one's lining up for Tom Brady cleats. No one's trying to find the Jameis Winston crab design. No one cares about Mookie Betts' jersey. No one gives a shit. But they buy Kyrie's. And they've been buying Kyrie's, right? Number one selling shoe at Nike for the last 5 years. So when you think about that regard, when they do bobblehead day, they're not giving Royce O'Neal bobbleheads out. They're giving Kyrie's. So as a role model, everything you do and everything you say impacts not only your peers and your organization, it's every supporter and non-supporter of said establishment, which is the NBA. So when he gets on the podium and he wears the hoodie half down and he does those things, that's energy and that's influence, no matter what you think or do. And I'm just thinking, you don't believe me? Look at the Sports Hit List chat. There are people defending what Kyrie said or believes in because it's Kyrie. They don't even understand what he's talking about.
Yeah, well, Anthony is one of them. He just said that stop with the company man shit, Paul.
I'm a company man. The
well,
truth is,
part of that, well, two things.
call
though,
it what
because-
you want.
because-
He's a
because you know
company
what?
man too.
Because you know what, Charles Barkley did say, you know what, I'm not paid to be a role model, number one. He was like me being a role model, like I understand the influence part, but then the other part of what you're saying for me is,
But
you know,
whoa,
so does that mean now?
But pause.
Hold on, wait, hold on. But does that
Pause
mean
there.
now I
Charles
have to
Barkley's
limit?
full of shit, Carl.
No, I know that, but the other part of it is, are you saying now Kyrie has to limit his beliefs because he's a company man? Like he has to limit what he believes in one thing because
I'm
now
not asking you to limit anything. I'm asking how you project it and which platform you use to project it at. Let me tell you how hypocritical the NBA, I'm not saying sports, the NBA is. Let me tell you how hypocritical this shit is, right? We just had an NBA owner forced to sell the team, right? There was no media, there was no podium for Sarver in Phoenix. There was nobody asking questions. There was no media wannabes that want to get famous, but clickbait, trying to antagonize him. In fact, they didn't even want to do anything. It was the own organization in the hoopla that said, man, Sarver, you got to go, bro. That's kind of what happened. Kyrie likes a page, follows a page. The black athlete, man, now let me go run with that story now. Now that is all we have seen and heard on all sports media every day this week, every segment, every show. It's Kyrie and the whole Jewish debacle. That's what we've heard.
for
So
him
it's a very
supporting the movie,
hypocritical
right?
environment.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
So
very
you, so
hypocritical.
do you believe he should have been suspended?
By the NBA? Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't think he should have been suspended for that.
Okay. Mike, what
Fine,
do you,
sure, he could have been fined. When I think suspension, I'm thinking a direct violation in policies and procedures. Now, I hate to talk in that language, but that's my language, right? Because this is my shit. This is what I do, right?
Mhm.
Suspension is a direct policy violation.
Mhm.
You were told to do X, you did Y. Ime Udoka, it was a policy violation. Got to get suspended. What Kyrie did was exactly what we allow to happen.
yeah.
Went on social media, shared his platform. Whether or not it rubbed some people the wrong way is another story. But guess what? Greg just talked about Kurt Schilling. No one's ever condemned the Utah Jazz for allowing racism to happen to fans and to players in the state of Utah. It's a known fact.
Right. Well,
It's a known fact.
Manny is saying he didn't promote it. All the outlets keep saying that he promoted it. I guess he mentioned it.
I
on
mean,
social brand. He
Call it
mentioned
what you want, Manny.
So-
I know you. That's your boy. Kyrie got millions of followers.
All right,
bro.
so Mike, what do you think here? Because again, I think sometimes I said this. The other part of it is like I understand him being, you know, who he is, but sometimes I feel like we're spending a lot more time. Like I would love to sit here for us to talk basketball and not talk this, but this is what's relevant and this is what trends, so we have to address it. We spend way much time looking at him saying something about a movie as opposed to analyzing him playing basketball and giving it way too much value for people. Again, someone's personal opinion for something we don't know. What are your thoughts?
So many.
I know
told
you told me
Y'all
you had a
give
lot
me-
to say.
Y'all give me like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. I'll try to do it as fast as I possibly can, but it's a lot in there. So I had an order up because I actually wrote these things down. So I had an order of how I wanted to go, but since Paul just talked about it and you said it, I'll start with that first. So in terms of when Kyrie, and now I'm going by what Kyrie said, when him and Nick Friedel went that back and forth and said, what do you mean by promoting? Kyrie, if you are posting a link to a movie, that is a form of promotion. That's how the word works. And Kyrie typically loves to do this, is when he does something, he gets indignant and forgets that is what it means to promote. In other words,
He
Kyrie,
tries to spin it, yeah.
nobody knew about this movie until you suggested that the link, I believe the link was, go and check it out. That is promotion. So you can't argue what was I promoting. You were promoting the movie. Now, just briefly to touch on the movie, because we know that most people don't know what the movie was. I know I didn't. Most people don't. The reason a whole community was offended is because this movie specifically talks about anti-Semitic language, and it quotes from a book called The Prodigals of the Elders of Zion. Now, this is a book that was written in 1903, and it was a book that peddled a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories of world domination. This book was given to people in Germany, children in Germany. What happened in 1933? The Holocaust and the rise of Hitler. So there is a long-standing history with language of Holocaust denial, etc., etc. That movie, this statement, or that was in the movie, which is a fake quote, it offended a whole group of people. So when Kyrie went back and forth with Nick Friedel saying, did I break a law? Did I hurt someone? Yes, you hurt someone. And for everybody listening, we know that you're going to be told, if you're a little kid, somebody's going to tell you words, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I'm here to tell you it is a lie.
Yeah,
words absolutely hurt. That is why we pick certain words to use to hurt people. Words do hurt, and those things matter. So it absolutely was promotion, and he promoted something that was offensive to a large community. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper, but I want y'all to stay with me. I'm not going to go that far deep. What Kyrie talked about, now again, Kyrie was talking about how he found out that his name meant Yahweh in Hebrew. Now, I would dispute that. I studied Hebrew in the seminary, for all those who know my background. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a Hebrew scholar, but I would debate that, but nevertheless, we put that aside. What Kyrie was talking about, and then he said, I went into Amazon and I clicked, and I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing this up after, but he clicked Yahweh movie, and this movie popped up. Now, part of this is a consistent search for a history for a community, particularly the ADOS community. That's the American Descendants of Slavery. For all those that know, I choose that moniker over African American because Africa is a continent with 54 countries. America is a country. ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, directly speaks to the lineage of those of us of chattel slavery in this country, America, right? So a lot of times, we've been historically viewed as this lost group. If you remember Black Panther, that was kind of who Killmonger was. Killmonger was the lost, it represented the ADOS or the African American, boom. So we're looking for a perspective of finding out more of who we are. And it seems as though Kyrie was going through this discovery. That's why he said he was looking it up. But just from so here is where it gets dangerous from a religious historical perspective, because this was an area I focused on in the seminary and still now. So there is one thing to say that historically, the people who are depicted in the Bible, in the scriptures, particularly the Old Testament, that those people were in an area known as which is Northern Africa, modern day Northern Africa, Egypt, and the ancient Near East, which is modern day Middle East, and that historically they were brown people. That is a historical fact that no one really disputes. But that is different than extending it further, which is what this movie and a lot of different groups suggest, that the diasporic Black people are the original Hebrews, and that therefore the people who are Jewish, because the Jewish diaspora happened also, with Bible speaks about that. We're not going to get into too much of that. It is different to then extend to say that they are not Jewish, which is their ethnicity as well as their culture and their religion. It is one thing to acknowledge a historical reality of where something takes place without extending it to that these people are not who they are and somehow diminishing who they are and what their legacy is, to the point where you will actually say that the Holocaust did not happen or anything of that relation. Now, a lot of people know particularly within the Black community in America, we have different groups that tend to push some of this rhetoric. Hebrew Israelites, the Nation of Islam, and the 5% Nation of Gods and Earth. There's a lot, again, there's a lot to it. And I just want to give, for those who are interested in this topic, I want to give you a couple names and people you can research. Listen closely. I think I don't know how long I've been going, Carl, but be patient with me. So I want to give you a couple names. Dr. Vince Bantu of the Fuller Theological Seminary. He wrote a book called The Gospel Hymenode. It speaks extensively on this history. Dr. Esau McCauley of Wheaton College, he has a book called Reading While Black. Great book. Dr. David Daniels III, he wrote an article on Martin Luther and Ethiopian Christianity, Historical Traces. He's of McCormick Theological Seminary, and Dr. Eric Mason of Epiphany Fellowship Church, who wrote a book called Urban Apologetics that deals with this. My point to all of that is, a lot of times we are in a society where people are literally just believing whatever they want without doing the proper research, seeking the people who have dedicated their lives to studying this information. And we go and we accept whatever the internet tells us, and we believe whatever we want to believe. And all I'm saying is that what Kyrie exhibited in his indignant back and forth is this desire to not care, one, about the people that he hurt by saying he didn't hurt, and two, just not doing the proper research and tapping in with the people, because these are experts in this area. And I know somebody's going to say, well, what makes them an expert? Who told them that? And that's where we get into this long conversation of nobody can be right as long as I think I'm right to myself. And that is a dangerous place that we are going in this society. So what Kyrie, I know this was deep, y'all, but what Kyrie, that situation, typifies is what we're seeing in social media all over the place, where everybody thinks they're knowledgeable, everybody thinks they're experts, and no one is willing to yield to people who do have an expertise, such as those people that I mentioned. We don't want to listen to those people. We want to do what we want. And again, as Kyrie said, I'm not standing down because I believe what I believe, even though he took the post down. Again, there's a lot there. If you want to hear more, if you want to talk to me more about that, y'all know where y'all can reach me. I know that sounds like a closing point, but I just want to end it on a light, because it sounds like I'm out, but I'm not out. We're going to talk basketball, but I think Carl and Paul, I think there's a beauty in when we do have these conversations, even though we want to talk basketball, I think there's a beauty in it because it creates the avenue for some of us who have, an interest in certain areas. Like this is my area of study for me, African Christianity and the history of it's an area of study for me. So it allows us to share some of our background. And Carl, I do believe that's how we do make some of these separations. We can, in one sense, say he's a good basketball player, to use Paul's term. We ain't saying great. He's a really good basketball player, but we can also say there were some areas that he didn't do correctly and that was hurtful to people, and we can correct him on that. We can love him enough to say he's a good basketball player and love him enough to say, my bro, you wilding with that.
Mr. Mike, people in the comments are loving you. We got Greg saying that was a great and much needed nuanced monologue from Pastor Mike. Greg also said that we have a huge problem in this country with understanding importance of sourcing. You see it across the landscape of political discussions and social media, and it bleeds into everyday life. Jay Lex saying thank you for the education. People saying, they may not agree with everything you have to say, but appreciate the education. So Mike, thank you for that, man. It really was needed for people to understand. And I think sometimes we don't do our own research before we jump the gun and say certain things. Again, sometimes I feel like, with this Kyrie situation, like it's never going to be ending. And the media does hang on every single thing that he says and does now, because they know it's going to be a narrative. I think Joe Tsai Sean Mark said that Kyrie's going to take a step back now from saying any comments until things have died down a little bit, but he's clearly going to have to address it and they're going to ask him more questions about it. But he should have done more of a bit of a research before you go out and say certain things, and I guess not in the way he approached it. But at the same time, if that's the way he feels, I guess it's a matter of how do you go about saying how you feel about certain things without, I guess, quote unquote, offending or not even caring. I guess he doesn't care if he offends who he offends at this point.
Yo, Carl, we all know that we all go by a simple rule, man. Not everything is for everybody.
True. It's not. It's fair.
This might be a hot take, man. This might be Kyrie last year in the NBA playing basketball.
Yo, I'm telling you, man. He's skating, man. When you talk about thin ice, this ice is super thin, man.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of layers with Kyrie, and even Stephen A was saying it. He's saying he's a good dude, he's a good brother, but there's a lot layer there. But I guess he is who he is, and like you said, he's not for everybody. But
he wasn't always like that.
No, but again, it goes back to the question again. Being a celebrity, should you limit what you have to say? Because clearly what he has to say offends other people. Should you limit what you have to say and hold back because you feel a certain way about something?
No, measure it. The same thing we all have to do, even if you're not a
parents do it every day. We
Yeah,
can't say
but-
what we want to
that's-
say.
That's human. Like that's
Yeah.
human of us. When I'm talking to you, it's something triggers in my mind, knowing there's certain things I'm going to say to you that may offend you or not offend you. That's a human thing.
And you
That's
know
the-
what's crazy? My students tried to use this because I was teaching them about the FCC and laws and about freedom of speech and freedom of the press. And they're like, well, what's freedom of the press if how come we can't, how come there's no freedom of speech where I can go say whatever I want? I'm like, you can, but there are consequences to what you say. And in terms of offending, which is why you can't go out there deliberately to say anything.
you can say whatever you want. You're just not free from consequences.
Right,
That's-
exactly.
you
So
can say
there
whatever you want.
there is some form of freedom of speech, but it also comes with the territory as being a celebrity. I guess you could see it from that perspective. But the people who are Kyrie enthusiasts are up in arms, and Anthony's up in there and saying, why can't he say what he wants to say? So there's a lot of that.
Nobody's arguing that he can't. That's that. And I know we want to move past it, but that misses the point. Nobody is arguing he can't say what he wants to say in the way that you can absolutely scream bomb on an airplane, and you will also be arrested for that. You can say whatever you want, but it is wiser to think about things that you say and how it affects other people. That's just human. That's a human thing.
Well, clearly at this point, it's safe to say Kyrie doesn't resonate. Like that doesn't resonate. That's who he is. So,
I hope so. He still got time. He still got time
so
to grow. We
moving
all
on,
do, man. We all a work in progress, brother.
So another basketball topic. Paul, you sticking around with us for a little bit?
I'm good for a few more minutes. I heard the kids screaming, but we back. My wife is a soldier, bro. She been holding it down. You know what I'm saying?
Sundays and Wednesdays, right? So the other big topic is Kawhi. Kawhi is missing 6 games, and people are saying, Andres is saying like, like it goes back to my point about us having medical degrees. And Mike, we went through this with the NFL about we don't have medical degrees, right? We don't. None of us have medical. So who are we to say Kawhi can't play? And it goes back to that same point again where I'm like, I don't have a medical degree. I wish I did. But, I guess it's the eye test or what do we know? That's not my point. My point is not he should be playing. My point is I made to Andres is that Kawhi is not reliable. That's fair.
Yes.
But Andre says he is, right? And I'm like, I don't understand how that works. That's my whole point. Looking at his trajectory, looking at what his record is with the Spurs, when he's playing, I guess he's a good player or a great player, because I have to do that now. You guys don't want me to say. I mean,
and it's not what we don't want you to say. We just want you to be correct.
Is he a good player or a great player? Because I want to say great because he's a 2-time Finals MVP.
Nah.
He's a 2-time champion. He led the Spurs.
I'm with Paul. He's a bubble guy. He's a really, really good player.
He's a really good player.
That was great in some moments. That I'll say that.
Fine.
Give all the caveats.
Fine, but again, my whole point is that he's not reliable. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying
That's why he's not great.
Right. I'm not saying that he's not I'm not saying that he is we're medical professionals and he should be playing. That's not my point. My point is that I can't rely on Kawhi Leonard, which is a fair assessment. Paul, what's your take on Kawhi?
It's a crook, bro. Listen, I'm not even mad at Kawhi. My beef is not Kawhi. I think Jarv, shout out to Jarv for the gray area, man. He said it in the chat. We need to come to terms of understanding that Kawhi is cooked, bro. And I agree.
Yeah.
I think I'm in that same boat right now. Like, I don't think Kawhi, I don't think he's been capable of playing a full season in the last few years, which is what a whole low management thing came from. But that last knee injury might have been a nail in the coffin, bro. Like, even the moment we seen him out there, that little 15-minute stretch, he didn't look sharp. He didn't look quick.
Right.
He didn't look like he had a year and a half off, bro. Like, he didn't give me that. Kobe gave me, rest in peace. When Kobe came back, like, I was like, nah, Kobe still got it,
Right.
I didn't get that feeling from Kawhi.
So that makes him a crook because he's always hurt. It's the same thing.
It's a lot of money tied up in the Kawhi Leonard business, bro.
It's the same thing with Anthony Davis. Would you say he's a crook too? Because he can't stay healthy either.
Anthony Davis is showing some signs of being cooked too.
They got they did get the Bubblicious championship. They did.
But again, when healthy, Kawhi is effective. He led the Raptors to a championship.
That's the thing, Carl. We can't just keep living off of one run.
It's 2 runs. He won the Finals MVP in 2014, and he also was 2-time Defensive Player of the Year.
The whole playoffs. Stop it. He was averaging 13 the whole playoffs. Stop it.
I'm giving you guys the facts. He's a 2-time MVP. He's a 2-time NBA champion.
Tony Parker was a Finals MVP. Stop. So
First
was
of
James
all-
Not
Harden.
twice, not 2 times
a
though.
basketball case can be made that he didn't deserve Finals MVP in neither one of those finals. All right, basketball case can be made.
In
Not the
2019.
Not the second one, Paul.
I don't
The
know, bro.
Toronto
Fred
the
Van
Toronto one, of
Fleet
course. Of course.
Van Fleet was special, bro.
Okay,
Especially down the stretch.
Van Fleet was.
Let's not do that. Paul.
okay,
Let's
so
not-
we're
let's not
calling
do
him a crook. He's a crook.
Nah,
He's
I'm
cooked.
that. I wouldn't say he's a crook.
Okay.
All right, Mike. Would you say that he's a crook?
I wouldn't go that far and say he's a crook. Because if you get hurt, you get hurt.
You
But
got them New Balances out there, Mike. Stop
Yes.
playing.
This is see, but that's problem number one. Why are you wearing New Balance, sir? That's just you playing ball
Your
in New
knees
Balance.
would be
Ew.
working, bro. Like,
Ew. You.
So,
why
Mike, what do you
playing
have to
ball
say
in
with the
New
whole
Balance?
Kawhi?
You're supposed to be a nurse
to the
somewhere.
Kawhi. Again, Mike. Again, you don't have a medical degree, so should he be sitting out these games to play later on?
And you're right. I don't know about that. I don't know about if he should or shouldn't. I know that he is Mr. Part-Time to me. That is what he is, and that's what he will remain. He is Mr. Part-Time. He gonna show up, and that's the thing. It's not like, and for those who say like, oh, he's guaranteed to get you a chip, that we don't have any evidence of that. We know that he did it once, and we also know that if the Warriors just had one, I know you don't like ifs, and I don't care, Carl. I know if the Warriors had one other of their stars, they would have swept them. So, but nevertheless, he got his chip. But we just can't be making it. Yo, listen, Rondo got a chip
Context.
too when he was playing with
I'm giving you
Paul Pierce.
context, bro. You got
playoff Rondo.
yes, but
Okay.
Rondo didn't win Finals MVP.
Yo,
that
that
year either, though.
first chip. Yo,
And
Carl,
he's a
stop.
two-time Defensive Player of the Year. We're forgetting
Carl,
that.
stop.
Though. All that's
The
all I'm
first
saying.
one you gotta stop.
That
Carl.
first
Come
chip.
on. Come on.
The
Carl.
first chip, the big three is still there. Yes,
Okay,
correct.
yes,
They're
correct.
still there.
Okay,
He
okay.
is a pup at that time. He gets he played great in the finals against LeBron, even though LeBron shot like 58%. But he played great against him. But I'm just saying that he's Mr. Part-Time, and that has to factor in when you, Zig, when you root for them, you have to factor that in. When you root for Kawhi Leonard, you have to factor in that he may not play. And when we talk about good and great players, I'm sorry, you cannot be a great player if we cannot rely on you. It's the same reason we do that with Anthony Davis. If we cannot rely on you, why are we just automatically saying you're a great player because you had two? If I'll give you two great playoff runs by himself with three. We'll go 2016, 2017, and probably 2019. So three with Toronto. So 3 in 8 years or 9 years does not make you a great player. It just means you've had great moments and you're a really good player.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up for that. I mean, aside from those two things leading in the story, Russell Westbrook coming off the bench. That
No.
being a positive
I
for
got
the
one
Lakers.
more gripe.
Well,
I got
what's
one
up?
more gripe.
What's up? What's up, Mike?
Because I'm tired of this. I had enough. I even saved it in my calendar from last week to make sure I bring it up because I'm sick and tired of this. Like, yo, listen, we're gonna stop with this. Steph never gets to be the best player in the league or top 3. We got to stop this because okay, we'll just take Giannis for a second. Okay, when Giannis won his MVPs, he flamed out in the playoffs. By most standards, he flamed out in the playoffs, right? He still got to be like the best player in the league or top 3, even though he flamed out. He won his one chip, then flamed out again the next. Oh, well, it's not a flame out. He lost in game 7 without his best player. That's the excuse they gave, but they ain't give it for KD. But cool. So that's 1 year where he won a championship. The year before he flamed out, the year after he lost in the second round. Stephen Curry goes from got injured. Then they said, could he lead a team to the playoffs? Now, I know they were playing, but they finished the AFC. They went from the worst team
hold
to
on,
the
Tom.
AFC.
Mike, for context, you're saying that they're saying Steph Curry was never a top 3 player or the best.
So
in the
no,
league?
right now he was ranked as the 5th best player. And I believe for the past 3 years, he keeps being ranked the 5th best player. My contention is, why can't this man now be considered the best player in the league? Because he led a team through the playoffs. He won the championship. He has because the reason we're saying Giannis is because we're going off of past resume. So then if we can take into account past resume, which is one championship, then we can take into account Steph's past resume, which is 4 championships and the recent one.
So you're saying
With
for now,
Finals
Steph
MVP.
should be considered the best player in the
He
league right
should
now.
be, if not the best player in the league, he should be 1 or 2. KD shouldn't be there. And the same thing, and I also got a gripe. Stop saying Ty Lue is the best coach in the league. Steve Kerr is by far the best coach in the league. Stop saying it, because you're not going to tell me.
Wait,
Steve
what are
Kerr
your
can't-
sources on these things? Are you on social media? Because I know you off.
No. That all the media, you know, I'm not on social media. All the media pundits always just thrust Ty Lue as the best coach in the league under Pop. Again, you can't say that Ty Lue is the great coach and the best coach with 1 chip with LeBron, but say Steve Kerr can't be the great coach because he has Steph, Draymond, and Clay. They weren't champions.
That's
LeBron was
because
already.
that's because they're still holding on to that notion. Mark Jackson started that whole.
You gotta stop that notion too.
Yeah,
You gotta stop
At this
That's-
point,
I
whoever
heard that
saying
one.
at
Yeah,
this,
they
you
still
know,
using
I'm the
that.
biggest Mark Jackson fan. Whoever's saying that, it's dumb at this point.
It's true.
Like it's 4 chips.
Paul, do you agree? I know you got to run. Do you agree with what Mike is saying? Steph should be considered at least the best player in the league, or at least top 3.
Number 1 player in basketball. I'm paying number 1. No disrespect to Giannis. No disrespect to Jokic. If he, I'm sure they. Or Luka.
Yeah, right.
None of those guys. Steph should be number 1. What I seen. I mean, Steph been easily a top 3 basketball player for the last decade, bro. Like, in my opinion, right?
Well, would you say
Impact
that
on the
again?
game.
So it's safe to say that he's been the face of the league the last 3 or 4 years.
Sure. You can say that.
That's the argument, right?
Why not?
We wanted to be Giannis, and shouts out to Giannis. I'm gonna stop hating on the Bucks since they're 6-0, and I look like a clown for hating on them last week. But
Yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah, for sure.
So Paul was talking about the kids wanted to start showing up. That's exactly what just happened to me. They
Yeah,
all just ran up in here.
That's the side. That's the side for us to go.
exactly-
That's the side for us to go, guys. This was
Calm
a great
downstairs,
show.
Mike,
Thank
and they
you.
would have been pulled up.
They
like,
found
share,
me.
like,
They
share,
found me.
comment, subscribe. The kids are hijacking the shows. You guys have a great night. Let's wrap it up at that point. I'll see you guys next week. We don't know what's going to happen with the NBA. There'll be another storyline for us to dive into. But Mike, thank you so much for that monologue today. I think it was well needed. I'll
For
definitely
sure,
clip it
brother.
for everybody to watch. Thank you to everyone who's supporting it. Like, share, comment, subscribe. What's up to the kids? The kids say Carl says hello. Send my love. And Sunday, Paul, Mike Phillips is going to host for Sunday Football.
Say less. Hey, say hello to the Cavs. They about to be the number 1 team in the East after they beat y'all tonight.
Nah, let's not stop. Nah, let's show.
Marlon is
Listen,
back. Man, they
listen,
fought without the
I just
football.
pray that the Celtics were able to, talk to the team instead of having them see, like, they're not communicating with the players. And it's just bad for our locker room, man. The fact that they had to find out about Ime and not from the team itself, that he's going to a new team with no dialogue, it's messing up our whole vibe, man. It really is. It makes no goddamn sense to me. Really does. Y'all take care. Y'all have